Have you ever met a woman who seems absolutely perfect, charming, and magnetic, but deep down, your gut is telling you something is just wrong? If you ignore that nagging feeling, it could cost you years of your life, your mental peace, and even your self-respect. Welcome back to Secrets Inside the Mind. If you're enjoying this so far, smash that like button right now. The truth is that women often reveal their past through subtle patterns they don't even know they're showing. These clues speak way louder than any words ever could. I'm showing you 7 clear signs she's slept with a lot of men, and pay close attention, because the 4th sign is the most dangerous manipulation tactic I've ever seen used against men. As a relationship coach, I've watched countless men realize way too late that they ignored the signs. They thought everything was fine until it wasn't. Don't be that guy. If you learn to spot these patterns early, you free yourself to find a relationship that truly works for you. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and tap that bell so you don't miss the next one. Also, share a moment in the comments where you suspected something was off in a past relationship. Your story might be exactly what another man needs to hear to avoid the same trap. Now, stay with me, because we're starting with the first sign. And trust me, it's one most men mistake for a good thing. Number 1. She's way too comfortable with intimacy. Way too fast. Listen closely, because this is where most men get it wrong. You meet a woman, and within days, or sometimes just hours, she's talking about physical closeness like she's just ordering a cup of coffee. She sits across from you, locks eyes, and maybe throws in a sly comment about past experiences. You're thinking, wow, she's so confident and liberated. She must really be into me. But hold on, my friend. What you're seeing might not be confidence. It's emotional erosion. A healthy woman who values connection will have a natural barrier when it comes to intimacy. This isn't because she's shy or repressed, but because she understands its weight. She knows that real closeness is meant to build over time, layered with trust and emotional investment. But here's the crazy part. When that barrier is missing, it's not liberation. It's a massive red flag. It means those boundaries have been crossed so many times they no longer exist. Think about it like a lock that's been forced open too many times. At some point, it doesn't protect anything anymore. It just hangs there, useless. That's what happens when a woman has repeated high-intensity encounters without the emotional foundation. The meaning is stripped away, and intimacy becomes mechanical, something to do, not something to feel. Watch for the little signs. Does she blush when the conversation turns intimate? Does she have moments where she hesitates, where her body language says she's processing what this means? Or does she glide through it like she's been down this road 1,000 times? Does she casually brush your knee or lean in just enough to make you feel the spark without the slightest flicker of vulnerability? That's not chemistry. That's muscle memory. You'll mistake her lack of modesty for deep connection, thinking it's fate. But the truth is, she's reenacting a script she's played before, and you're just the latest co-star. The words feel familiar to her because they are familiar. The rhythm, the timing, the way she touches you, it's all practiced. And here's what's brutal. When intimacy loses its emotional weight, it's almost impossible to get it back. You can't recreate the magic of firsts with someone who's made that moment a routine. You'll quickly notice there's no real build-up here. There's no emotional tension, and no sense that what you're sharing is actually rare. The bond you think you're forming is much weaker than you realize, because the glue that holds it together, emotional exclusivity, is totally missing. So, here is my warning to you. Do not confuse instant comfort with a genuine connection. Just because she's willing to cross the line very early doesn't mean she's choosing you over everyone else. It might just mean that, for her, that line doesn't even exist anymore. If that's the case, you are walking right into a relationship where the most important bond, the one that grows from true intimacy, is already broken before you even get started. If you're enjoying the video so far, smash that like button, it really helps us out. But here's the crazy part. Number 2. She carries a permanent emotional wall. This one is very subtle, and it fools even the most self-aware men. She can sit across from you, smiling and laughing, and keep up the playful banter all night. She might even share stories from her life, funny ones, charming ones, or maybe even a few moments that seem deep on the surface. But here is the truth you need to hear. You aren't getting the real her. You're getting a performance. A woman with a permanent emotional wall has mastered the art of making you feel close without ever actually letting you be close. It's like she's giving you a full tour of her house, but she's keeping every important door locked. You can walk through the hallway and admire the decorations, but the rooms where the real stories are kept stay shut tight. This wall is not the same thing as having healthy boundaries. Boundaries are meant to protect you both while you get to know each other. This is different. This is a defense mechanism she's built brick by brick over years of bonding deeply and then losing. Every man who came before you added to those bricks. Now, she's a fortress. Hit subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into these red flags. Now, this is where it gets interesting. You'll notice it when your conversations always seem to hover on the surface. If you ask her about her real fears, her childhood, or the moments that truly shaped her, she will pivot away. Maybe she'll crack a joke to change the mood. Maybe she'll answer using vague cliches that don't really mean anything. She might even change the subject so smoothly that you barely even notice it. But deep down, you will feel it. You'll know she's holding something back. This is where it gets dangerous for you. A man who wants a real connection will naturally share parts of himself first, hoping it encourages her to do the same. You'll open up about your struggles, your goals, or your past heartbreaks, and she'll respond warmly. She might even make you think she really gets it, but her response will never have that same level of depth. She's reacting to you, not reciprocating. Over time, this creates a major imbalance. You're giving way more than you're receiving. You are investing your emotions into a relationship that is capped from the very start. And when conflict hits, as it always does, her wall becomes impossible to break. Instead of working through the problem, she might just shut down or disappear. It's not because she's confused. It's because she feels safer behind the wall than she does risking real intimacy. So pay attention. If weeks turn into months and you're still circling the same surface-level topics, that gap is real. Loving someone who hides like this will drain you until you realize you've been alone the whole time. But wait until you hear this. Number 3. She has an overcrowded male network. You've probably heard the phrase, "they're just friends." And yes, sometimes that is actually true. Which of these signs has surprised you the most so far? Drop it in the comments below. Think about this. If her phone is constantly buzzing with messages from guys you've never met, or if she has a story about some male friend for every single topic you mention, you aren't just seeing a coincidence. You're seeing a pattern. You need to realize that women who keep a whole crowd of men around them aren't just being friendly. Most of the time, it's about a validation loop. They need that steady stream of male attention to feel good about themselves, regardless of their relationship status. It's like a quiet drug that tells them, "I'm still wanted, I'm still hot, and I still matter." And trust me, that feeling is incredibly addictive. If you're enjoying this so far, smash that like button. Now pay close attention to the red flags here. She stays in touch with multiple ex-boyfriends. She has best friends who have clearly stated they'd date her if they had the chance. If you bring it up, she'll just shrug and say, "Oh, he's totally harmless," or "we've been friends since we were kids." But let's be real, harmless guys don't text you at midnight. Harmless guys don't happen to call right when you're out of town for the weekend. But here is where it gets even more interesting. Notice how her friendships with other women are almost non-existent or always full of drama? That's because real friendships with women require deep emotional work. It's hard to do that when you've trained your brain to only want those quick, shallow hits of attention from men. Male friends usually don't ask for emotional vulnerability. They just give attention and a bit of flirting. But here's the crazy part. Deep down, she's keeping her options open. You might think she's loyal, and maybe she even believes she is. But in her mind, She's keeping doors open just in case. If things get rocky with you, she doesn't have to start over from scratch. She just picks someone from her roster and moves them up to the top spot. Before we move on to the next one, hit subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss our next deep dive. Now, let's talk about the hard truth. A woman constantly plugged into a network of other men isn't truly available to you, not in her heart or her head. You'll always feel like you're competing for her focus, and you can't build trust on that foundation. Number 4. She uses intimacy as currency. This one is dangerous, not just because it's manipulative, but because it's so easy to miss until you're already hooked. You might think you're sharing genuine moments of closeness, but what you're actually in is a transaction. She isn't giving intimacy, she's trading it. Here is how it plays out. Things are tense between you. Maybe you've disagreed on something, or maybe you've said no to a request. Maybe she's even caught in a lie. Suddenly, her body language shifts. She becomes softer, more affectionate, and maybe even physically seductive. And just like that, the tension dissolves and you feel close again. You think the problem is solved, right? Wrong. The problem didn't go away. It just got paid off. Now this is where it gets really toxic. When she's upset or wants to make a point, intimacy is the first thing she withholds. Not because she's genuinely not in the mood, but because she knows it gets a reaction out of you. It's punishment dressed up as boundaries. She's learned that your desire for closeness can be used to get what she wants, whether that's an apology, a favor, or your silence. This is not natural feminine intuition. This is a learned strategy. Women who have spent years in short, high-turnover relationships often figure out which tools work fastest to regain control. And physical intimacy, when weaponized, is one of the most powerful tools they have. Which of these behaviors is the biggest deal breaker for you? Let me know in the comments. It's the ultimate bargaining chip because it strikes at your biology, your deepest emotions, and your ego all at once. The most important thing to watch for here is the timing. You really need to pay attention to when the affection flows and when it suddenly dries up. Is it happening naturally? Or does she only seem to get close right after you've done something she wanted? Does her warmth vanish the very second she's unhappy with you? If the timing feels too perfect to be a coincidence, it probably isn't. You see, when intimacy is used like money, your love life turns into a business deal. And in that kind of business, you're never actually an equal partner. You're just a customer who doesn't even realize he's paying a high price. Number 5. She has mastered the art of reading and controlling men. Now, there is a massive difference between a woman who naturally understands guys and one who treats them like a science project. The first type of woman is observant, kind, and intuitive. But the second type is doing it on purpose. She's been in enough relationships with enough different types of men that she's basically run her own private research lab on male behavior. And because of that, she knows exactly which buttons to press and exactly when to press them to get what she wants. At first, it feels incredible. She gives you compliments that hit you right where your pride lives. She notices the tiny details you wish more people saw: the way you carry yourself, how you take charge of a situation, and your big ambitions. You feel understood in a way that is incredibly rare. But before we go any further, hit subscribe and tap that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into these relationship secrets. Now, here is where you have to be very careful. Real understanding and connection take a long time to build. If you feel like you have perfect chemistry instantly, it's often just a reflection of how quickly she's reading you. She can spot your strengths and, more importantly, your biggest insecurities way faster than you think. Once she has that map of your mind, she can play you like a favorite song. When she wants to pull you closer, she feeds your ego. When she wants to throw you off balance, she pokes at the cracks in your confidence. 1 minute, you feel like her hero, and the next, you're questioning yourself and begging for her to tell you everything is okay. The real danger here is that the manipulation is very subtle. She isn't storming into your life making huge, obvious demands. Instead, She's slowly shaping your emotional state in ways that keep her in total control. She knows exactly when to be sweet, when to be distant, when to give you praise, and when to let a cold silence do all the work. Every single move she makes is calculated to keep you heavily invested, but also feeling unsure of yourself at the same time. But here's the crazy part. Most men mistake this behavior for intense passion. They confuse this emotional roller coaster with a deep, soulful connection. Those highs feel intoxicating, like a drug. The lows make you chase her even harder to get back to the good times. Before you know it, you aren't in love, you're being conditioned. If you start to feel like every emotion in your relationship is being managed, it's because it is. And once you finally see the strings, you can't unsee them. That's when you have a choice. You can keep dancing for her approval, or you can walk away and take back the control she's been holding all along. Number 6. She has no shame or privacy when it comes to her past. Let's get one thing straight. This isn't about judging someone for their history or expecting them to be perfect. We're talking about that natural sense of privacy and selectivity that usually protects a deep emotional bond. When that's gone, it says a lot about how she views connection and how she might eventually view you. A woman with no shame about her past won't just share stories about her exes. She'll tell them casually, like she's talking about a weekend trip to the beach. She might openly brag about the number of people she's been with, or give you vivid details about past relationships, almost as if she's trying to prove how experienced she is. And here is the kicker. She actually sees this openness as a positive selling point, and she'll act like her lack of boundaries is just a sign of honesty. You will notice right away that there is no hesitation in how she speaks, no attempt to soften her words, and no feeling that some things should stay private. That is because, in her mind, those intimate moments aren't personal anymore. They have been normalized through constant repetition. When something private happens over and over with different people, it stops feeling rare or special. And once something isn't rare, it loses its sacred value. If you're enjoying these insights so far, smash that like button and let me know your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Now, try asking her a simple question about her past and watch how she reacts. If she immediately gets defensive, turns the question back on you, or calls you insecure and old-fashioned, pay close attention. That is not just a simple disagreement. It is a refusal to acknowledge how her past choices might be affecting your relationship right now. She isn't interested in the emotional impact of her history. She is only interested in winning the argument. But here's the crazy part. This lack of discretion usually spills over into how she handles your current relationship. In the same way she casually talks about her exes, she might start sharing your private business with her friends or anyone else who will listen. The boundary between what is private and what is public is very thin for her. Once that line is crossed, the trust you are trying to build becomes incredibly fragile. You really need to look at how she speaks about her history. Is there any sense of care or respect for those past experiences? Or is it just another story she tells to pass the time? Does she respect the weight of the connection you are building together, or does it feel like you are just the next chapter in a long, casual series? If she cannot understand why privacy matters, she will never understand why you matter, at least not in the deep way you need her to. Hit subscribe and tap the bell right now so you don't miss the next part of this breakdown. Now this is where it gets interesting. Number 7 on the list is a history of short-term relationships. At first glance, this might seem like no big deal. People date around, things don't always work out, and they move on. That is just how life goes, right? Well, maybe. But when you start to see a consistent pattern where every relationship she has ever had ends after just a few months, that is not just a streak of bad luck. That is a blueprint for how she operates. In these cases, every single guy follows the same arc. There is intense attraction at the start, things move way too fast, and then everything collapses just as quickly as it began. She will usually describe these breakups as mutual decisions or say it just wasn't meant to be. But you won't believe what happens when you look closer at the details. Her stories almost always focus on outside factors, bad timing, or the other person's flaws. She never seems to mention her own inability to stay and build something that actually lasts. Why does this matter so much? Because real, long-term commitment is not built during the honeymoon phase when everything is easy. It is forged in the hard work that happens after the excitement dies down. When the novelty fades and you have to navigate real differences, that is where true depth is formed. But if she has never stayed long enough to reach that stage, she simply hasn't developed the tools to handle it. This pattern points to a deep craving for the high of a new attraction. The butterflies and the constant texting are like a drug to her. The problem is that lasting relationships require stability, and stability is never as high energy as a new fling. If she is always chasing the rush, she will start looking for her next fix as soon as things get real. Which part of this pattern surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments below. If that is her history, it will be your future too, unless you choose to walk away. When you step back and look at these 7 red flags together, the full picture finally becomes clear. This isn't about being mean or judging a woman's history just to be harsh. It's about understanding the simple truth that people are shaped by their habits. Each of these signs is a thread in a larger story, and that story tells you if she is actually capable of the deep bond you're looking for. But here is the really crazy part. So many guys choose to look the other way because they're blinded by attraction, or they think they'll be the one exception. They tell themselves that their love will be enough to break her cycle. But habits don't just vanish because you care. They only change when someone does the hard work to fix themselves. And that is incredibly rare. Here is where it gets interesting. You've seen the list now. No emotional boundaries, frozen hearts, constant male validation, using intimacy as a weapon, manipulation, zero privacy, and a trail of short-term flings. These aren't just random traits. They are the footprints of her past. And those tracks lead somewhere specific. If you're paying attention, you can see exactly where she's going. The only question is, are you willing to follow her? Which sign surprised you most? Tell me in the comments. And share this with a friend who needs to hear it. To keep sharpening your instincts, hit subscribe and tap the bell so you're always 2 steps ahead. Your standards are what protect your peace. Guard them fiercely, because your entire future depends on it.